Global markets continue to shudder under surprising dollar strength, and Bitcoin has also been dropping a bit over the past few days after being rejected under the key level of 42,000 just a few days ago. We're going to take a look at the dollar and global markets as well as Bitcoin and all of the news driving the markets to try to see if we can figure out what's going on. Let's go. What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Please, before we get started, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. As I mentioned before, the dollar is showing some surprising strength, especially after the Fed basically committed to continue money printing in QE throughout at least the rest of the year, but that's clearly not what's going on behind the scenes at the moment. First, we're going to take a look at the chart, and then we'll talk about what it means. Here's the DXY, which is the dollar versus a basket of other currencies. As I mentioned yesterday, the dollar can be weak, but as long as other currencies are weaker, the dollar and the DXY will continue to rise. But as you can see, we had a descending channel that started at the stock market bottom of March 2020. This is when the COVID crash happened. As you can see, the dollar showed extreme weakness over that time, which caused stocks to go up. It's all about the denominator. Stocks were not rising. The dollar was basically dropping. Well, now we have a pretty clean breakout of that channel and strength over the past few days, which, as I said, seems a bit surprising because you think the dollar would drop if they're going to print more. But we are breaking out. We have a potential double bottom, which would only be confirmed with a break of 93.43. Well, this dollar strength, let's see what it's doing to other markets. The Dow Jones, as you can see here, gapped down majorly and broke support in the range lows and is continuing down at the moment. Stocks are getting absolutely hammered by this dollar strength. Now let's look at gold. Absolutely hammered by dollar strength. Let's look at silver. Absolutely hammered by dollar strength. Well, now let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart. As you can see here on the daily, Bitcoin was rejected at the 200 MA with the impending death cross that many people seem to think is a major big deal, and I do not. We have seen some weakness here, but not nearly as much as in other assets. If we drill in a bit to the Bitcoin hourly chart, which is not a time frame I usually look at, but since there's very little to look at, honestly, we're chopping sideways and there's nothing to see below 42K when we can actually get bullish. We have a low, high, higher low, higher high, and potentially, hopefully, a higher low as long as price closes above 34,631. This seems to be a key resistance locally. If we break this black line, maybe we continue up. And we do have this slight little channel right here, but that's not much to trade on or look out. At the end of the day, Bitcoin is basically ranging between 42, 43K and 30K, and there's nothing to do unless you're a scalping range trader until it breaks either below those levels or above the top of that range. I know nobody wants to hear it. It's boring. Altcoins look bad, but sometimes the best thing to do is just sit on your hands. So now let's dig in a bit to why the dollar could be potentially going up, even though they're printing more money and have committed to QE. Well, the last few nights have been a real shocker in the reverse repo market. The Fed sold a record $756 billion in Treasury securities this morning in exchange for cash via overnight reverse repos. This was up by a stunning 45% from yesterday's operations of $521 billion. These are record numbers. There were 68 counterparties involved. Yesterday's overnight reverse repos have matured and unwound this morning to be more than replaced by today's tsunami. That is the Fed taking cash out of the system in a reverse repo. And as you can see, that $756 billion last night or this morning, depending on where you are in the world, that undid 6 months of QE. But at the same time, the Fed is still doing more QE. It has passed $8 trillion on their balance sheet. It's like one hand is doing one thing and one hand is doing the other. But clearly they are concerned about inflation and are removing liquidity from the system, taking cash out at the moment. That would give us a reason why the dollar could be showing some strength and other markets would suffer. If they continue to do something like this, which I believe would only be short term, we should see other assets continue to correct to the downside. But this is really astounding, seeing reverse repo at a level like this. But now let's dig into some Bitcoin news, the thing I know that you guys are generally all here for. As Michael Saylor said in the Bitcoin Mining Council meeting on Spaces the other night, Bitcoin will go from a 1 trillion asset to a 100 trillion network. You gotta admire this guy's commitment. He's a true believer and really believes that we could get to that level, which is possible. But the real news was that the mining council met. We have this loose affiliation of North American miners who are committed to improving the environmental situation for Bitcoin mining. And as we see shutdowns in China and more mining potentially moving to North America, we can expect that it will only become cleaner and only more transparent. Now, talking about mining, Sichuan orders state power grid to cut supply for 26 Bitcoin mining farms. Very clear that China is cracking down here on miners because of the environmental impact. They shut down the grid and probably will be doing more. There's still a lot of miners in Sichuan. This is not representative of all of them, but this is a very important region. That could be bad short term for hash rate as these miners go offline. But like I said, in the end, if miners move out of China, it becomes more decentralized, moves into North America, it becomes more clean. That is only a good thing for the Bitcoin network moving forward. And the next story in relation to that, Miami mayor luring Chinese Bitcoin miners with cheap and clean energy. Miami has a nuclear power plant just 25 miles south of the city. Nuclear power is considered clean energy and is very abundant and extremely cheap. He's working with the local power companies to reduce what is already cheaper than average electricity costs, which could lure miners to South Florida. Obviously, Suarez is going all in on attracting cryptocurrency from companies all the way down to miners, even traders and investors. It seems that Miami is going to remain crypto central. Now, another story about a billionaire going from hero to zero and hero to zero in the crypto market, much like Elon Musk. Mark Cuban was a hero a few days ago when he was rug pulled and was in Discord talking to people about what was going on. And he seemed to really be one of us, as people like to say. Well, now Mark Cuban calls for stablecoin regulation after trading token that crashed to zero. Even in crypto, where huge drawdowns are the norm, 100% washouts in a single day are extremely rare. It's important because it's a bit of a misnomer to consider what he was trading a stablecoin. It's an algorithmic stablecoin. We've seen a number of rug pulls on those. This is not a backed stablecoin like USDC or USDT. So I think that there's a bit of misdirection. This crash actually continues a very long line of algorithmic stablecoin projects that have crashed and burned, as nobody seems to have figured out how to nail it. The repeat failure of these projects is a meme on crypto Twitter. So I think it's a bit misleading to say that he's asking for regulation of stablecoins, knowing that that's not really what happened here. And finally, DeFi focus, Grayscale exploring 13 more crypto assets for its trust. While Bitcoin continues to correct and the market continues to go bear, Grayscale and other institutions continue to double down and commit to further assets and buying more and adding more. And it's very clear based on the assets they listed that they are very interested in DeFi, much like the rest of us. Guys, that is all. I hope you all have a great weekend. Please check out the newsletter and my sponsor, Femex, down in the description. And until Monday, peace.